Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
All right, welcome to episode 116 of CPG Vibes. This is the special Master Series episode, Volume 2. I thought I was doing it alone for a second. You kind of popped out and popped back in.
You know, I think we're bound to break it, so let's see what happens. So far, so good.
It's a good icebreaker right there. The internet's already breaking 5 seconds into this episode. So we're going to go through some laundry list items pretty quickly because we want to leave as much time for our guests as possible. And this is a big show, Wade. It's possibly, and it probably will be bigger than the first Master Series. So we're really pumped, excited. A lot of people have registered to attend, over 150 people. So there we go. And we also just want to mention at the very top of the show, the prize. So don't you think about logging off early if you have dinner plans, whatever you have, because the trivia prize at the very end, you're going to win Creative Kaiju, who's our weekly sponsor, free 7 days of unlimited graphic design. You're going to win, in no particular order, a 12-pack of the brand new Crunchy Peanut Midday Squares, straight from Jay Karls' house. He's going to send it right to you. He's not going to dance for you, but he'll send you the pack. 1 hour growth session, 1 hour growth coaching session with Mike Fata, and also 1 hour pitch consultation from Raj Babu with Boulder Food Group. That's pretty huge. Pretty huge.
It's huge. It's huge. So if you're just tuning in for the first time or it's been a while, we're going to talk about a lot of things here, but sometime during the episode, we're going to touch on something. There'll be a question asked at the end of the show. Whoever answers it correctly first will win everything Alex just mentioned. I'm not going to try and repeat it all, but it's going to be pretty awesome.
Cool. And I'm looking at the comments really just to make sure that people can freaking hear us for this episode. I'm very hypersensitive to the audio, making sure people can hear us. It sounds like we're coming through loud and clear, so that's good. All right, so some laundry list items to talk about. Then we're going to bring on our guests in about 6 or 7 minutes. We'll try to keep it on time here and keep it efficient. We are the #1 rated CPG podcast in the world at this point. Let's keep it that way. Please give us 5 stars and go to Apple Podcast. Also go to Spotify if you so wish. We also have sponsorships and block rates. We're booked out until September. We're getting well over 100 people live almost on every single episode, plus many thousands that listen to on an Apple Podcast after the fact. So if you'd like to be a sponsor on our episode like Creative Kaiju is today, email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Slack channel, cpgvibes.slack.com. Make sure to join us on there for prizes and connecting with each other. And we also have almost last, but certainly not least at all, is the ongoing sponsors. We have V-Driven and also Range Me. So I'm going to start with V-Driven because they got something interesting, right, Wade? This new kind of this new program they're doing with Sprouts. And let me read it right now. And I'm taking a lot of breaths so I don't run out of breath because it's a lot of talking in the beginning here. V-Driven is a leading consulting and brand management agency specializing in strategic guidance and brand representation for emerging and mid-sized CPG brands. In partnership with Sprouts, this is a program that they're doing, V-Driven, in partnership with Sprouts. They're organizing a pitch slam for brands that hold regenerative, organic certification or ROC, R-O-C, right? The other ROC. This is a unique opportunity to launch your brand on the Sprouts Innovation Table in Q4 alongside other great regenerative organic certified brands. If your brand is new to the market and certified in regenerative organic practices, learn more and apply through the link provided. And the link is right there. There's actually a special MailChimp link or something on there, Wade. We'll post that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll find it here.
Yep. All right. People still use MailChimp. That's cool. All right, so Range Me, talking about our other ongoing sponsor here, and then we're going to bring on our guests in a few minutes. So there's a QR code in the bottom right corner there. So make sure to check that out. You scan it. You can go to their programs. They have discounts. Mention CPG Vibes, both with V-Driven and also with Arrange Me. And you can get some really good discounts on their services and programs. What is Range Me? For those that don't know, Range Me helps brands drive awareness and engagement with retailers through an easy-to-use platform that has more than 15,000 buyers. Listeners get discounts on Range Me Premium and Pro subscriptions, which include benefits such as direct product submissions to retailers, access to Nielsen IQ, and even in-person meetings with buyers at ECRM. Joe Tarnowski, you're the man. So he helps on the ECRM side. rangeme.com/CPG Vibes. Those are the ongoing sponsors. I'm going to take my breath. Wade, why don't you handle the Creative Kaiju stuff for me?
Creative Kaiju. Let me find that one. So Creative Kaiju is a design agency that offers unlimited graphic design as a monthly subscription with no contracts. It's a perfect pairing for a CPG brand looking to grow. Branding and design matter, especially for CPG brands, but the average designer salary in 2024 is about $72K. Agencies cost even more, and dealing with freelancers is painful. Creative Kaiju offers unlimited in-house quality design for a flat monthly fee, perfect for a growing CPG brand. Get unlimited high-quality creatives for your growing CPG brand with subscriptions starting from $599 a month. You get access to a vetted design team, flat rate pricing, and fast turnarounds without any contracts. And I'll put a link up for that as well.
Already covered it.
Right on. On. So
when you're talking, we've got that. I do the links. Yeah.
Yep. And we've got the MailChimp link in the chat for the Sprouts V-Driven regenerative organic. So that's in there. And I think we hit them all. What do you think?
I think we did. One final thing is our time slot is going to change starting next Friday. As long as that still works for you, Wade, you're not in the middle of a big meeting or anything at that time, right?
I'm traveling next week, but I think I can make. We'll talk about it. I think I can make it work.
Okay, so we're going to announce that on LinkedIn. Again, we don't plan for anything on the show.
Obviously.
No preparation. We're talking live to figure out our schedule for next week. How unprepared is that for both of us? But we're going to be changing the time slot in coming weeks from 2:30 Pacific time to 12 noon, not midnight, 12 noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, so that the East Coasters, they don't have to listen during, while they're having dinner. So there you go. All right. So without further ado, and let's see here. And just a disclaimer also that Seth Goldman is running a little late, but he'll be here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But we're going to bring on our guests now. Without further ado, I got to find some non-copyrighted music. Let's do rock, since they all look like rock stars here. All right. So we have no particular order. We have Mike Fata, investor advisor. We have Jake Karls with Midday Squares, Kari Pedriana with Green Spoon Sales, and Raj Babu with Boulder Food Group. All right. How you guys doing?
Good. Doing great.
Awesome.
Okay. Sounds a little bit of nerves. A little bit of nerves. All right. So what we're going to do is, and Wade can help me and tag team on this, but we're going to go around the room. And we are, someone looks like we lost Jake. He'll come back. But we're going to basically just go through introductions and say who you are, where you're from, what you do. And let's say same thing as last time. One thing that we probably don't know about you that you want to share here. So let's start clockwise with Mike in the upper right corner there.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm stoked. Mike Fata, based in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years in the natural product space, and my claim to fame was pioneering and growing Manitoba Harvest hemp foods to a $100 million success. And we sold that 5 years ago. And over the last 5 years, been focused helping other entrepreneurs as an investor, advisor, mentor, coach. And so this is right up my alley, conversations like this. One thing about me, I used to play professional pool when I was a teenager before I got into business. So don't play me at pool. Unless you want.
Right on.
Some money
That's
on the
good
line.
to know.
Yeah. Interesting. Didn't one of our previous guests say that where they play like professional pool or something? Am I thinking of some, or is that, did I dream that? All right.
I think that's a foreshadowing dream of some kind.
Probably a
I'm
foreshadowing
guessing.
dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deja vu. All right. So Jake Karls over there with the sunglasses, the padded sunglasses and hat. Jake, how's it going, my man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm fired up to be here. I love going after Mike, because he's so bold when he talks. It's like so much conviction in what he says. It fires me up. I'm a good friend, but my name is Jake Karls. I'm one of the co-founders of Midday Squares. I started this company with my sister and my brother-in-law in August of 20.
It's like we're having some connection problems. We can't hear you, Jake. Okay, internet is breaking a little bit. Jake, we're going to come back to you. Raj, go ahead, and then Jake will circle back. I think you might have to log off and log back on, Jake.
You are missing the greatest story of all time right now. You can just see it happening. Raj Babu, nice to meet you. And thank you all for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. I'm at BFG Partners. I'm a partner over there, and my background actually, I've kind of hit every part of the ecosystem of food. So I've been on the corporate M&A side at White Wave. I was an operator for a long time, running Birch Benders to our exit, and now I'm on the venture side. And instead of giving a fact about me, because I'm a little bit boring, I'd rather give a fact about Jake, who I got to kind of meet for the first time recently. It's more fun to say it that way. The first time my team met him, or one of the first times, he came into the room during the pitch doing an interpretive dance. And if any of y'all have seen this video, it is quite amazing. So I got to dig it up and share it. But I thought that's more exciting than anything I could ever tell. So
What was the song? What was the song, Raj?
I don't think there was even a song. I think it was just going from his heart.
I was going to say in his head. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
I've seen that video. All right, so we're going to go, looks like back to Jake, and then we're going to go to Seth and then Kari. So Jake, we can hear you and see you. So tell us, so you're with Midday Squares. One last thing that we didn't hear is one thing we don't know about you that you want to share here.
Okay, I love it. First of all, I love that things freeze and don't work. It never works in my life. So even though I'm a millennial, I'm so bad with technology. So one thing, that's one thing about me. But another thing about me that I think is unique is I think I'm really good at pickleball. And I really wish that in my future life that I could play every day, and that could be my job every day. So that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And yeah, I was saying before that I'm fired up to be with everyone here because I've worked with all of you. I've gotten the chance to meet each one of you on this panel. And then, I just think that this is a brilliant panel of good folks. And I'm excited to get deep with you guys and some fun stuff. And maybe we could dance at the end because that's what I like doing.
Also ping pong, Jake. You're not too bad at ping pong.
Oh yeah, decent. I like that you remember that. I like that you remember that. I tried out for the college team. It was a bit of a disaster.
All right, now Seth, welcome to our show. How you doing, brother?
Good to be with you guys.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself and like the elevator talk, and then tell us one thing that we and our viewers may or may not, or probably do not know about you that you want to share here.
Sure. Yeah. So founder of Honest Tea, founder of what is now Just Iced Tea. So it's kind of reincarnated. I guess I'm not a cereal entrepreneur. I'm a beverage cereal entrepreneur. And also chair of the board of Beyond Meat, as well as a small chain of restaurants called Plant Burger. And one thing people may not know is that right after college, I traveled around the world. I spent a year in China, a year and a half in Russia, and traveled throughout all of Asia and Eastern Europe, and this part of that working experience. And it was a great way to learn how to stand up on your own feet, figure your way around, especially I barely knew the languages in each country. So I kind of just had to make my way and make a living. So that was a good entrepreneurial early test for me.
Awesome. All right, and Kari, what's going on?
Hey, I'm Kari. I'm typically in Boulder, Colorado, where our offices are, but I'm in Palm Springs right now in California. I am the co-founder of Green Spoon Sales and CEO. I started the company 13 years ago with my husband. He comes from the Wild Oats days, Whole Foods, and other side, and I come from the marketing, merchandising side of the business. I think for me, what you might not know about me is I raised my boys in a cabin in Colorado in the mountains with no water. which was interesting. And then I started Greenspoon with $29.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. And they've grown it into what it is today, which you're very humble, but it's a lot bigger than a $29 company now. Add many zeros to that 29.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to just ask basically a bunch of questions just to kind of get things going and get the energy up here, and we can talk and anyone can really jump in. But Wade and I are going to be directing questions to certain guests that are on here based on your expertise. So I did see a comment here from Steve Sorensen about ladies first and reverse. All the guys go first. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to start with a question for Kari. Okay.
Yeah.
So it may not be the best starter question, but let's see if this resonates with people. Conventional stores, right? A lot of conventional stores are crossing the chasm, and they're really trying to offer more natural products.
Yes.
I know with Greenspoon sales, you started natural, you're doing some conventional, some mass market now. What are the stores that you are, just some examples that you're impressed with on how they've pivoted or how they've added natural products to their stores and the way they're doing it? Just want to hear just some of your feedback on that.
Yeah. And I love this question because I love seeing that happen in conventional. It's really amazing to see the changes going on. I would say, I don't know, if it's conventional fully, but it's kind of in the specialty world, but I think Wegmans is crushing it. And they're having their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the space and emerging brands and what's going on and the trends. I'm really impressed with their team and what they're doing.
Right. It's Wegmans. And then how about something on the West Coast? Anything that comes to mind out of curiosity?
West Coast. I mean, most of the ones that are doing a lot on the West Coast for us are natural focused. I mean, more central, like HEB. Like HEB is doing a lot on the natural side as well.
Yeah. I love how HEB has their what is it called? Like their natural specialty section within the store. So like you go in the store and then there's a store within the store, and there's a natural specialty person that just helps people in those 3 or 4 rows. So I like how they're doing that. Cool. And then Wade, you want to go to a follow-up question?
Well, I'm going to stick with. I'm going to stay on the topic of brokers, but I'm going to direct this to Jake and Mike and anybody else that wants to chime in. But what are some tips for picking the right broker for your brand? Are there different strategies and characteristics for different channels like mass, club, C-store, etc.? How would you talk about going about that?
Mike, you want to kick it? You want me to go?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it. I think you got to be clear with what you're trying to do as a brand first and what stage of business you're at. So it's a lot different if you're a startup or if you're really a venture-backed or venture growth company. But so know where you are right now and where you want to go. And because you should have a clear plan that you're maybe talking to a handful of brokers on about your plan, and then get them to pitch back to you what their capabilities are, how they think they can impact your growth. And that is for sure specific a lot of times to channel. Maybe some brokers can cover natural and specialty and club and grocery, but I found the bigger that our business got, having specialized brokers for each channel usually worked out the best. But be clear with where you're going and pitch that to them, and then expect to pitch back. And have 3 or 4 or maybe a handful, because brokers have conflicts with other brands or they're just not the right fit for you. So you want to have optionality when you're making a big decision to either set up a broker or change a broker.
So just to add to that, Wade, so we work with Greenspoon, and they're awesome. They do all of our natural. And I think something when you're choosing a broker, I think something important is when you're looking at the person. So when we met Kari, and she's on the panel. I'm not just saying that because she's on here, but she was cool. She was real. She was no bullshit. She was authentically herself, and we felt that energy. And I think that goes also with investors and other people you're going to work with. You got to meet these people. You got to hang with them. You got to understand who they are, because it really makes a difference. Your brokers are your front line, basically, to your retailers, your partners. And a lot of the time they're communicating for you. So you got to choose people that you trust, you believe in, and that are hungry. And Kari's team is very hungry. And as for like other retailers, we have specialized brokers. I think you need the specialized. For us, we use another group called Moscow for Target, and we have a phenomenal relationship with them, and they are dedicated to just building our brand at Target. And we've gone from selling 5,000 units a week there to selling almost 50,000 units a week. Wow. And again, it's because of relationship. It's because of the two-way communication that we get to have. And I think that you really need to choose your brokers wisely as a brand, because some aren't great. And I'm going to be honest with you, some just don't care. And you got to be very, very careful. Those are your front line out to the other retail partner. And then they also have their relationships with brokers. So as a brand, you should ask the retailer, who do they like working with? Who do they really enjoy working with, and who have they seen the most success with? Because a lot of these buyers, especially you, Wade, you've been in the space a long time. You've worked with so many, so you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And getting that data from the buyer is also extremely relevant and important.
And I think the answer to that question, if you're asking me, depends on which hat I'm wearing. If I'm wearing my Ohio hat, my Louisiana hat, my California hat, my North Carolina, probably give you 4 different answers on who I'd pick, and it just exactly goes along with what you said. Kari, anything else you would add to what Mike and Jake said?
Yeah, I mean, definitely depending on your strategy, like what your strategy to your go-to-market is, that's really important, because there's brokers that I think are better at certain strategies than maybe we are. We have our certain playbook that we've used for 13 years that's been really successful for us. But I think Jake is like so right on. Like, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of brands and watch them grow and, all of that. And I think the way that his team has partnered with us as their team, like there's no feeling like we feel like we are in their team, on their team. They're so positive, so thankful, so much gratitude. Like, they just treat our team so well that they want to go fight for them every day. Like, why wouldn't you want that if someone's going to treat you like that? And so I think it's really important to kind of break the old mold of like treat your brokers like crap or yell at them. Like, they're not doing it enough. They're not doing this enough. Like partner with them and work together and break those walls down together. And like on Jake's team, Nick just wrote us an amazing letter about one of our people. And he took the time out of his day to write this letter. He doesn't have to do that, but it goes so far. And so I think pick your brokers wisely, but also work with your broker as a true partner.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to pivot to a question for Raj, and then I'm going to have a question for Seth. And Seth, we muted you because he's in the car. He's definitely here. He's present. But there's some background noise. But he originally couldn't make this episode, and he said, you know what, I'm going to make it even though I'm traveling. So he's like, we're working it through right now. So thank you, Seth, again for making it. So going to Raj, I'm shifting gears more to the investment side, which I think also ties into also Seth as well. It's something that's been on my mind, right, for the last year and a half. And you witness brands that raise a lot of money that are having issues, right? Is money not as powerful as it used to be, Raj, for an emerging brand? Money's still needed, right? It's still necessary. But even if a brand raises a lot of money, that's not the only factor. What other factors in your mind are really important to see a brand actually scale and be successful?
Yeah, great question. I thought you were going to give me a softball to start, man.
No, this is
a deep one that goes a long way, but I'll give you the quick, the quick short version of it. Besides the money, I think the fundamentals of a business, right? I sound so boring, and that I'm that venture guy that says that, but it's so true. And I just think about, my own parents as immigrants. Like, if I told them I'm creating a business with poor fundamentals, is draining a bunch of money, they'd look at me like, why are you doing that? And so what I think about is things like gross margin, right? Like the real basics of it. Do you have a strong gross margin at the core of it? Do you have a product that can make money at some point and fit that need? And I also look at just the growth in sales. Is there a need in consumers that they want your product and there's pull? You hit those two things, that's your building blocks, right? That's the start of it. And everything else you can change and fix. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a product that scales enough to be able to make you some money out of it, it's not worth it, right? Find a way to create that product, otherwise you're going to be going uphill when everyone else isn't.
Exactly. And then are you, I'll make it a little more softball in my follow-up. Then we're going to tie in Seth here. I owe you a softball because I did the hardball.
I'm kidding.
So when investing in a brand, like how are you, when that down the road, they may be raising more money, right? Potentially, maybe not. So what do you look for in a brand? Is it that they never have to raise again, or that they're going to raise again and it's just going to be inevitable? Like, what's your thoughts on that whole thing?
Yeah, bluntly, like it's really up to the brand, right? And really up to what they need. Every single situation is a little bit different. It's always great when it's the last round because it's helpful for capital efficiency. And, it's such having been fundraising 18 months ago, right? As an operator, it is such a drain of your energy, your time, and, just your own like belief in yourself and confidence. It's not easy. And so the less you can do that, the better. And so, one thing that we do encourage people is to try to make sure they have enough in their raise right away versus having to come in, for more and more incremental again, just because it gets difficult. So making sure they raise enough. But at the end of the day, there's no expectation on our end. It's more of what makes sense for the brand, right? If more money can help it grow and scale, that's great. Go raise it, right? If you don't need it, it's going to waste and it's just going to dilute everybody and you don't really know what you're going to do with that money, then it's not worth it. And I'm lucky enough to say that, we have two brands on this panel right now. Sorry, I just got thrown off for a little bit. I saw the path run through. Is this the time we do this now? But
no, it's really hot in here. It's like a steam room in here. That's why I need to take my shirt off.
It's like 48 degrees. I see ice behind you, man. No,
so you said you're dancing at the end. Is that meaning something else along with it?
Honestly, I felt like I was going to explode of heat. So I was like panicking. I knew it wasn't my turn, but I was like, I'm sweating, and I'm like, I need to take it off. Sorry about that.
You're too important, man. Don't explode on us. I was just saying though, like we have Kari actually. Greenspan was our very first investment ever at BFG. Tom Spear, the person that founded our fund, met Kari, and she did a great job conveying that and her goals and her needs. And same thing, we're lucky enough to be a part with the Midday Squares team as well. So it's nice to see that.
Awesome. I'm going to pivot to a question for Seth here, just to keep it moving along. This one's I'm really curious about this one. So back in like 80s, 90s, a lot of things were not refrigerated, right? There was many more shelf stable. Then in the 2008, 9, 10 through 15, the Suja times, and everything's refrigerated. And now the pendulum seems to be swinging back to, the shelf stables again. It's, with a lot of brands. Some brands are still refrigerated, like Midday Squares. But what are your thoughts on where the industry is going to go, Seth, in the next 5 or 10 years? Is it going to continue to be more shelf stable? Is it going to go back to the fresher, refrigerated set? Like, what are your thoughts on where that's heading?
So I broke up a little bit. I'm in a bad section of DC right now. But, the question about where it's going in terms of refrigerated or shelf stable, I think I do think refrigerated has a place because it connotes fresher, more closer to natural state. But I think I don't see, there's going to be a big movement one way or the other. I just think, it's all about choice for the consumer. So certainly, with Just Iced Tea, what we're selling is shelf stable, and it for that product makes sense. I don't believe tea tastes better or is more natural if it is in a refrigerated package. So it's really about the package itself, the product itself.
Yeah. That's a really good point that I didn't think about, is like, if your product just tastes better refrigerated and it enhances the texture and the taste, which I feel like in Midday Squares case, it does, it enhances the freshness of it, then you can go refrigerated, even though there's a lot of challenges that come along with that. But I think for tea, right, it could be, room temperature, it could be even a little hot, it could be cold, you're still going to drink it. So, all right. So we're going to keep on going here. This is a question for Mike. We're doing a pretty good job of balancing everything, right? Having everyone talk. Yeah. So let's see here. I have one just for you here. So you're an investor, right? You invest in brands, right? There's a Nuts for Cheese, Soul Cuisine, Midday Squares, and many, many others. What trends are you looking for in this given time? And what makes a brand investable?
Yeah, my investment thesis is pretty simple. It's products that I have in my house that I enjoy with my family, and then when I meet the founders, it's founders that I have a fit with that I want to hang out with, and literally have over at my house and have dinner with, and even sleep at my house. Like hang out. If those two are right, then I know that it's worthwhile to do due diligence and look at the fundamentals of the business. I'm bullish on manufacturing because I won with manufacturing at Manitoba Harvest and at Soul Cuisine. So I like manufacturing, but the product and the gross margin and like the fundamentals of the business after good product and people is kind of what I think about when I'm investing, which is why I don't make a lot of investments. It's my family money. I'm not a fund, and so I got to get it right more often than I get it wrong. And so far, so good on that.
Yeah, the Fata fund does have a nice ring to it, though. Just thinking out loud here. Yeah,
maybe the Fata family fund.
Fata family fund. I like that even better. Family money. So we're just going to take a quick pause just to mention our sponsors. So we'll take a beat here and go back, and then reminding everyone that just logged on, this is really key, that the trivia, the prize for the show is enormous. We have 4 prizes for one person, and that's going to happen at the very end of the episode. It's going to be a 7-day freeze with Creative Kaiju, unlimited graphic design. There's going to be a 1-hour growth coaching session with Mike Fata, a Family Guy, not the show, the other Family Guy, that's him, and 12-pack crunchy peanut, and then that's going to be from Midday Squares, and then a 1-hour pitch consultation with Raj, just as far as pitching investors. So it's huge. It's huge. Makes the goosebumps happen here. So, and then we have our ongoing sponsors. We have Range Me, and we have Be Driven. So make sure to go to the landing page links that we put up there. All right. So next questions. Let's get back into it. Wade, I've got one.
You got
one, and then I got one after you. Let's go.
All right. I was going back to Green Spoon and Kari with just talking about the feedback from your team with regards to virtual meetings versus in-person meetings. How are things looking now on May 10th, 2024? Are they virtual? Are they on-site? Are they both? And just talk about the overall change in temperature with regards to, the pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID. Where are we now, and how is your team reacting to and relating to that?
Yeah, we're seeing a big uptick in in-person meetings again, which is great because it's nice to be in person. There's still a lot of retailers that are doing virtual. I think that it's a lot more efficient for them just to get through more meetings quicker. They can just be like, this is the blocks that I have. And for some retailers, it's less travel for brands to be flying in if they're conscious about the travel piece of it and the impact on that. So we are seeing a major uptick though in person, and we're also seeing a bigger uptick with buyers letting us bring in our partners into the meetings. Pre-COVID, it seemed like everyone's like, no, I don't have, like, it's just your team come in, like, let's get through this. But now it's like, bring people in. I think people really want to see people again, which is great. It's still kind of going.
Can I?
Excellent.
Wait,
I was gonna nail it over to you, Jake, because I figured you'd have something to say. Go for it.
Yeah. So wait, you know this. So I'm a big fan of the school of showing up, old school in person, and I've done it with Wade when we worked with both retailers. And Kari, your team knows that we show up all the time. We ask for those in-person meetings, and Mike Fata once told me, you got to be local everywhere. And when you're local everywhere, you build these relationships that are deeper. When you get that in person, you allow for serendipity to be created. On virtual, it's extremely hard to get the same type of serendipity that you would get from being in person. Yes, it could be a little bit more inefficient, more time consuming. I 100% agree. The airport's a disaster. Airlines are a mess, and just transportation is a disaster. So, but I could tell you that the return on Midday Squares is in person showing up has been infinite, and it's going to continue to be infinite, because when you build something, a deep relationship, I always say it's like dating. Imagine you were dating someone for virtual forever. Eventually you have to see them, right? You got to have some sort of intercourse or something. And no, but that's the truth. The truth is you do. So I always say, get on a fucking plane, excuse my language, get on a plane and show up. It's going to pay off. Some people won't like it, and some retailers don't like it, by the way.
Yeah.
But there's 80% that really do. And, I got to spend time with Wade's family. I got to know his family. I got to be at his house for hours. It built a friendship rather than a transaction. And that's where I think is the value of in person. Now, listen, if you're going to be shy and not talk, don't go in person. But if you're going to show your real personality and be authentic, then I most definitely think push for that in-person meeting.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah,
Good,
100% agree.
good thing Seth's got the earphones on with the kids in the back.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
Well, and
so-
and I was just going to say real quick with that with Jake, I mean, I think it speaks too to having the right person do your in-person meetings, right? There's certain people that, let's just be honest, aren't great salespeople or good people, right? And so picking the right person on your team to be present for those meetings and represent your brand or your company is very important, right? At least from my perspective. And Jake, obviously you're custom fit for what you do. So
yeah, it's a kind of a no-brainer at the Midday Squares office who's going to the presentation there. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And sometimes founders, I'm not saying Jake in this scenario, but founders, they may not be people, right? They're kind of the mad scientists behind the scenes that are making the product and doing operations, and they know so much about the food science. There are those types of founders out there. So it's good for founders to also unleash the beast and let their team go out and do the presentation, have them trust their VP of sales, have them trust their regional sales director, and have them make the flight over and do the presentation. So I want to pivot this one back over to Seth here, as he's in his Uber car here. So I'm just kidding. So Series A, it seems like the criteria has really changed for that. More and more mature companies, more revenue growth. Are we going to see any more, and how many, like early stage Series A investments where it's pre-revenue or very young and they're putting in a lot of money into it? Are those days over and they're just looking for more mature companies now?
Yeah, I hope we move from that. To me, a Series A is when you've got proof of concept, where you've got that margin, and you've demonstrated somewhere that there's some traction. And then to me, that's where you put real money in. But unless it's a very science forward, like obviously with Beyond Meat, we were able to raise, significant funds because there was a lot of science that had to go into it. But otherwise, at least as an investor or even an entrepreneur, I wouldn't ask people I wouldn't expect to put real money into a company until I understood that the business made sense. And that's funny. That's a term I use all the time with my team. I'll say, this isn't making sense as a business. And so, you just got to have those fundamentals.
Right. Kind of reminds me of like the I think the Better company, where they raised a lot of money early on, but they had a lot of kind of food tech to lower the carbs, up the protein, and make it still taste like a bagel, which you think is easy, but I guess apparently it's very, very hard. So let's pivot that to Raj. Same question.
Yeah, it's, as I think through it, so we're minority growth investors. So we kind of, really Series A, B with some seed in there. I think a seed is belief without evidence is an old quote. And A is when you start to get a little bit of evidence. And I think over the past, call it 5, maybe 10 years, not having that evidence has burned people. And there's been a little bit of a leap of faith and belief in it, and it just hasn't come true. And I think it also has to do with people's ability to decide what's good and what isn't. And so the more evidence there is, obviously, the easier our jobs are. But it's also, I think people are just a little bit more hesitant to go in that early. But that said, that's also an opportunity, right? When there isn't when people are feeling a little bit less excited about those belief without evidence brands, that's an opportunity for you to come in and really understand, spend the time, and figure out what makes sense.
Yeah.
What would you say? So, like Raj, both you guys, like if you're a proven founder, like if Seth is raising his next Series A, or someone that's done it before, it changes the fundamentals a little bit, right? For the investor to qualify, take a bigger risk, maybe even, or what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Spot on, Mike. And we're raising our third fund, and we just did our first investments, and one of them is with a founder that we know very, very well. And it's one of those things where you've already proven it, right? We've shown us evidence. And so now we believe and believe in you and believe in whatever you come up with going forward.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So when I started Eat the Change, which initially was a snack company, we didn't raise a ton of money because so I was basically putting in the money myself to sort of make sure we got to a place, okay, this makes sense. And then once it made sense, then I could feel it was appropriate to take other people's money. So in a way, I was kind of willing to bet on my own resources before it made sense. Once it made sense, I was, then I invited other people in.
Yeah.
That's how good of an entrepreneur you are, Seth. You even said it earlier. Like, I'm not going to ask someone to invest in me in Series A, even though like I'm a highly qualified, proven out entrepreneur. So good on you.
Why don't we lob this question out to one of the investor fellows here with regards to looking at traction, evidence, velocities, the questions in the chat there, ACV gains. What are you looking at as an investor for traction? This is from Robert Broom with Mooski Bars.
Yeah, I can take that real quickly. Hey, Robert, good to thank you for the question. It really depends. Again, I sound like that guy that says it depends a lot, but I'm going to do that. It really depends, right? Of on the brand and what the product is. But to me, velocities are always probably the most important barometer of what of evidence, right? That comes into it, because that means people want it. It means, hey, the pricing seems like it's right. It means it's going to stay on shelf. And guess what? If you're not on shelf, you're not going to be selling, right? So that's one of the first things that I think about as I think through velocities. And then besides that as well, it's tough. There's not a lot of, especially for earlier brands, trial and repeat's a little bit tough to get. So you kind of have to go a little bit by gut and what other people say. But I'd say velocities is probably the first thing I look at.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a really good case study, and this happened right around the corner from my house. Is Health Aid, right? Where I remember in 2013, and I have a story about Olipop as well, but I'm going to start with Health Aid. With Health Aid, I saw them at the Farm Shop. Ever been to this place in Brentwood? Anyone ever been there? So it's like a place where celebrities go. It's in the middle of Brentwood. Anyone in LA, they know it, they love it. And I saw Health Aid on the shelf with their white label. It was a white label. It wasn't how it looks today. And I thought it was medicine. It looked like a prescription bottle or something like that. And my wife turned to me because we were having lunch there, and she said, that's going to be the next big kombucha brand. And I didn't believe her because the way the label looked. I'm like, yeah, the name's good, but the label, I don't want to buy. It looks like medicine. And then First Bev came in and did exactly what we're talking about, where they had velocity, but not a lot of money. They were making it, in the back kitchen in Manhattan Beach at some bread shop. That's where they started. And this is a very rare scenario where they went with their gut, pun intended, and said, hey, this could be big and the timing is right. There's one big leader in kombucha. This could be the next big leader. But what I've heard in interviews, and this goes back to Mike's point, is when they were thinking of investing and they knew they wanted to invest when they brought the co-founders in the office in LA, and they met with them, talked with them, heard their vision, heard their passion. And they said, we want to be in kombucha. This is the brand. We're going to plant our flag in this brand. So I think that's a really good case study. And then Olipop, we saw them in Erewhon 2015. And my wife said the same thing. She's like, they're going to be huge. I'm like, I'll believe you this time. You're right about Health Aid.
I think I was just a quick way. Another way to answer that, and it's how I think about it as an investor, is how does this brand scale? Which the entrepreneur could be thinking of that, like, how do I scale? Because that's the story that you're selling. And that's why we say an inch wide and a mile deep in CPG, because if you're in 1,000 stores and you're selling 1 unit a week per store, you say, how does this brand scale? Really tough, whereas if you're in 100 stores and you're selling like 20, 30 units a week in those stores, how does it scale? Pretty easy. You go into the next 200 stores, the next 500 stores, right? And so just that one question that entrepreneurs can ask themselves can really set themselves up for a good investor presentation.
100%.
I think before even velocity, I think Raj said it before, and Boulder Food Group was very tough on us with this one, and I respect them so much for it, was gross margin. And we said it before, but I think it needs to be emphasized for anyone that's starting a business or currently at the beginning stage of their business. Your gross margin will be brought up every single day going forward. And if you don't have that gross margin, you might not be able to sustain a business. And, velocities or not, you need that margin to get there. And I think that you could have the best velocities in the world, but if you're not making money as a company, eventually it's going to crash. Eventually the faucet will turn off. And I don't know, I think something about Boulder Food Group, and shout out to Dayton Miller, who sits on our board. He was so adamant on gross margin. Every meeting was about the gross margin. And I'm grateful we're grateful as a business that was a huge focus. And we took that seriously. And today we're proud, like we're at 58%, and we started at -8%. So it's been a journey. And I think that everyone listening should take that and and really emphasize it, not just because the market's shitty right now for investors, but that's because that's actually a stress test on your business. That's a real stress test. And, you can increase your velocities with marketing and merchandise and all that stuff, but you can't increase your business without the gross margin being there, right? So I just wanted to emphasize that because I know Raj brought it up earlier, but I think it's such an important point for the investment topic.
Yeah.
Gross margin is the foundation of your house. You can't build a bigger house if you don't have that foundation. That's said really well.
And it needs to be calculated properly. That's a way that entrepreneurs fail. Like you have to have all of your material cost of goods, labor, and overhead in there, and it's gross sales minus your trade spend discounts to actually calculate your gross margin. If you get that wrong, people start saying we have a 50% gross margin, and investment due diligence, you actually have a 30%. That's not good enough. So
don't forget,
the secret is to have a Mike Fata in your life. That's the secret is.
It's a good segue. I wanted to flip something back to Mike and Kari with regards to you having and touching so many brands. Mike is an advisor, obviously Green Spoon representing so many different brands. Is there something, I'm not going to say a mistake, but something common, Mike, that you're seeing kind of repeatedly with the brands that you invest, advise, etc., that if you were to just narrow it down to one thing that you would give to, is it gross margin? Is it something else? And then the same question for Kari after that.
Kari.
Kari, go ahead first. Go first, and I'll follow up after.
Okay, for me, it's a little different because I look at it differently than an investor would. So I'm really looking at if the brand's ready to go to market, like if they have all their pieces to their puzzle ready, because a lot of entrepreneurs come to a broker way too early, and we've learned our lesson from that. Because I want to make sure that everyone's ready to go. So I'm looking for certain things, just like even packaging, ingredients, like people behind it. Do they have the right people behind it? Like all of those things is how I'm looking at when I'm reviewing brands every day. I'm looking at those kind of aspects of the brand instead of certain other ones. I'm really looking if they're ready to go to market and they have all their pieces together.
Yeah. One thing, just adding to it, I think it's a great topic, is the choice of how many SKUs to come out with in the beginning. I think that's so fucking important. And whether it's, Koya, where they started with 3, Midday Squares started with 3,
Harmless Harvest was
Harmless
1.
Harvest 1. And it's funny with Harmless, they started with the 8-ounce bottle, right? You remember this? They started with the 8-ounce because they're like, who's going to pay $5 for a premium coconut water? So we're going to go to 8-ounce at $2.99, which is the same price as Vita Coco and Zico and all the others. And it was such a big success. They went to the 16-ounce at $5, right? So there's one more question I have. It's I think everyone can jump in on this one because I'm just curious to hear about your thoughts because you're, maybe talking with them weekly, daily, monthly. I want to talk about Whole Foods, right? Which we all love. I shop there every single week. And, but I've noticed from the brand side, it's harder and it's getting harder to get in. It's getting with the centralization with Amazon. It's getting harder to go the local route. There's brands that are doing really well nationally and other retail chains that are still not national with Whole Foods, right? And so I want to start with Kari and then really pivot it to anyone in the room, whether it's Seth or Jake or Raj or Mike. But Green Spoon has a long-standing, really strong relationship with Whole Foods. Can you tell us what's happening there? The growing, why is it harder now to get FaceTime with them and get in their stores?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot, right? Before Amazon, it was more regionalized. We had relationships with those regional buyers, so they had smaller things. They had a smaller focus, and then it went to global, and then they're revamping their Forager program right now. So we're getting a lot of FaceTime with those guys for younger brands, which is great. So I think there's change coming on that, and I think that. I'm a huge Whole Foods freak, so I love Whole Foods, but I think that they've been really awesome about being open to launching items and bringing innovation in. I think they're just being more selective on that because I think they just have to be in the environment they're in, and they want to make sure that brand's ready to supply them and promote with them and all of those things. And so I think they're just being more cautious. I think we're still seeing them take definitely some risks for sure.
That makes perfect sense. Looking at it, and that's why I like to see the other perspective, because from the brand's perspective, it's like, why is this, why is it taking longer? And then why am I not in all the regions? But when you
Yeah,
look
but
at
you
it
got to
from the other
understand
side, you have to understand exactly
you got to
what's
understand they're
going
getting
on.
inundated with brands, and they're getting
Exactly.
inundated. They're one human being on these desks, and they're really, really trying. But
Yeah.
you have to have something really compelling, a really good plan, and then they'll listen. You just have to be ready to go in front with something exciting. I would say.
And everyone
Yeah.
wants to be in Whole Foods, right? So they're getting
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
emails. So let's go to Seth. What are your thoughts on over the years, right, working with Whole Foods?
Yeah. So first of all, they've been an amazing partner. They literally bought my first, Honest Tea out of a thermos, what I bought. So they've created, I wouldn't be where I am, or these businesses wouldn't be where they are without Whole Foods. That said, it's very funny because my co-founder in Honest Tea, Barry Nailbuff, is a head of strategy. So he's all about trying to make rational decisions. But so much of what not just Whole Foods, but this whole universe does is not rational. And what I mean by that is, well, if you're concerned about, being relevant in the beverage season, you wouldn't do a shelf reset at the end of August. But that's exactly what's happening with Whole Foods this season. And then if you were to look at sales by SKU, you would be weighting your cooler appropriately. So our peach oolong sells, 3 times more than some of our own varieties, but certainly more than other brands. But we only get one facing of peach in a cooler. And so what it means is we do bring out additional varieties, because if we only let sort of the shelf offer just one facing, we'd be sold out and then not be able to sell anything else. So in some cases, what we bring to the shelf are going to be backups for peach when it sells out. And so you just have to grudgingly accept that, this is not a fully rational business, and then, do your best to make it work given that context.
Anyone else want to jump in on this one?
Sorry, I was sorry. Is this still the question of Whole Foods?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that I have something. I love Whole Foods. We started our business when we started walking the aisles in Whole Foods Ottawa in Canada, and got inspiration from that in 2018. And obviously, it's not been easy over the past years. But I think that this is the heart and gold of the natural space. This is really a brand builder for a lot of brands. You have so many good customers that come in there. They are super fans of Whole Foods. They are like a cult that loves that, a community that loves that store. And you as an emerging brand need to get in there, and you got to do whatever it takes. And it might take time. It might be very difficult, but you need to work your ass off to get in there, because it really truly is a brand builder for a lot of brands. And you just look at the success stories in the past. You can look at, there's countless amounts. And I think that as they go through this phase, I think you just got to navigate well with your brokers. I know Greenspan's been a really, really big help with us navigating Whole Foods, and we've got our track with them. It took time, but we got going with them, and now the oil's there and the gas is there, and it's actually flowing. But again, lean on the people that already know the organizations really well. Lean on mentors that have been there, done that know people that could help you. Don't just try to do it yourself and get angry. When a business transitions, it's very difficult. And I know a lot of you have been through transitions in businesses here. You know how hard it is, right? So it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And I think that, being patient is key, and leaning on the people that know the space very well is important.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you have to recognize, some of us have been looking at a couple of us, 20 years plus 30, whatever in the industry. Like Whole Foods has changed, right? Especially after the sale, they're the big guy and gal now. And but there's a lot of optionality for great natural food retailers to build that base and think of Whole Foods as the next stepping stone on your way to the mainstream consumer, maybe even. And there's lots of different paths to go. But I think that, we hear it all the time for Canadians. I want to go to the US and go to Whole Foods. You're like, that's just such a huge bet that there's probably another 10 or 20 steps that you could take before then that would be more logical and more rational and easier to resource, really.
Exactly.
And Mike, we're tight on time, but I wanted to ask you and Jake this question from Robert Kogan, who tunes in from the show here with PFS. I don't have my link up for Robert. Alex, do you have that? But he's asking about U.S. brands not having plans for the Greater Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, etc. Robert's on here every week talking about how Toronto's the third biggest market in North America.
Sure.
And what you just talked about, Mike, was Canadian brands coming to the U.S. But what Robert's talking about is our North America, or not North American, rather U.S. brands missing the boat in Canada. And what would you say to that as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think and I'm happy to jump in here first, Jake. Like, I think it depends on the category and the product for sure, but Canada is an untapped market opportunity in a lot of categories, or a couple of years behind the US. And so we've seen, and it's hard, right, for US businesses. They're like, hey, the US, you could make a massive company and never leave the US, but sometimes you can go to Canada and get national distribution in Loblaws or Sobeys or these other accounts pretty easy if the category is ripe for you, and that may make sense sooner than later and worth the extra inventory with the French English label. Like, there is some challenges, right, going over the border, but for the right brand and the right opportunity, we've seen it done. Dream Pops is probably one example that David went to Canada early and got national distribution in Canada and has a meaningful foothold in the Canadian market, which is a valuable part of their business, and only because it was unique in the category and they went there early. So I think there's more opportunity for other brands if they check it out.
Yeah, just to add to that, Wade and Mike, Canada is 40 million people, right? So we're approximately 40 million people. So we're the size of smaller than California. That being said, it's still considered a strong market. There's a lot of similar trends. The consumer is different. The Canadian consumer is different than the US consumer, but there's a lot of similar trends from an overall umbrella standpoint that can be taken advantage of. But if you're an American brand, a US brand trying to come into Canada, here's one piece of advice. It's very simple. Get to know the culture and put dollars behind the investment. If you're going to just put the product in national distribution because you're a hot US brand, there are countless studies of how many have failed and not gotten any traction, even if their brand is well known, because they didn't put the dollars and time into the people, to the marketing efforts, to the activations. You still need to do it. Even though it's cross-border and you're known in your side, you still need to do it. For us, Canada's only 25% or 30% of our business. Now we're 75% United States. And we're grateful for that, but Canada is still a core business, and we give it so much love because, again, it's so spread out. There's 4 big cities in the entire Canadian country, let's call it. There's Montreal, there's Toronto, there's Vancouver, and then there's Calgary. Sorry, Mike. Winnipeg's a little smaller.
You said Montreal there first, right? Yeah, I put Montreal first. Not Winnipeg's not on that list.
No, Winnipeg. I love Winnipeg, though. I love all of Canada. But the truth is if you're going to come here, make sure to put the dollars, make sure to hire the right teams to work with, and even maybe invest in a team locally here because they understand the culture. And it's the same thing going to the US. You're not going to go build a business from Canada and the United States. Americans and Canadians are still slightly different, right? They shop differently. The retailers, the amount of choice of retailers you guys have in the United States is incredible. It's so many different types. So I would say if you're going to come here, invest. Make sure it's not just, oh, this is just Canada. No, come to Canada and actually put the time, money, and effort into it.
Yeah, and I only I'd give a pitch there for the American listeners. Like, the Canadian Health Food Association, CHFA, has the 2 biggest trade shows. CHFA now East and West. It's like Expo West and East, but now there is no Expo East in the US. But you could still go to Toronto in the fall and come to CHFA East, and it could be a jump off point because we're already seeing that there's going to be even American retailers that are coming there for sure. All the Canadian retailers are there because that's the hot spot now, and Toronto's a great place to visit in the fall. So come check it out.
Excellent.
Love it.
It's
a Canadian love fest. I love this. And we're actually going to be focusing more on the Canadian market in future episodes as well. We got a lot of requests for that, and more US companies are now breaking into Canada, right? Because it's 40 million people, right? Don't sleep on Canada, right? So we're just going to mention our ongoing sponsors really quickly. And also we're going to be giving out our prize in about, call it 2 minutes. It's a 4-tier prize, four count prize. A lot of stuff happening there. So make sure to stay on here, stay logged on, and we'll go to the trivia question. But first, our ongoing sponsors here, we have V Driven, and they have they're in partnership with Sprouts Farmers Market. They're organizing a pitch slam for brands that hold regenerative organic certification. I know also Seth's into this stuff too. It's a unique opportunity to launch your brand in the Sprouts Innovation Table in Q4, alongside with other great regenerative organic certified brands. If your brand is new to the market and certified, ROC, learn more and apply. And there's going to be a link right there. The MailChimp weird link, but just copy and paste that into your browser. And then RangeMe is the other one. There's a QR code in the bottom right corner there. Scan that, go to their landing page, and they help drive awareness and engagement with retailers through an easy-to-use platform that has more than 15,000 buyers. And then listeners also get a discount on RangeMe Premium and Pro subscriptions. So make sure to click that link or scan that QR code. It is rangeme.com/CPG-vibes. Breath. And Creative Kaiju, the last one. And I'm rolling. So Creative Kaiju, 7 free days if you win the prize. But they are I'm going to say for my own words, I've been using Creative Kaiju through Genius Juice, now through my consulting firm for 3 years. I don't know if you guys have ever been on Creative Kaiju here on this show, but you basically get unlimited professional graphics back and forth, no matter how you can bother them 100 revisions if you want to really piss someone off there, but you can do it. And it's part of their package. And they do deck images, which you can then present to Raj with the prize. They do website stuff. They do Instagram. They do TikTok. They also do animated GIFs. They do short videos, and it's a flat rate, unlimited graphics, unlimited revisions. They work through the night because they're all over the world, but they're very professional, and we've been using them for 3 years. So make sure to go to creativekaiju.com, and there is a landing page there, creativekaiju.com/CPG-vibes. We got to change that and take out the dash. I'll talk to Dean about that. Okay, so the prize, Wade, do you want to reiterate what that is? And then we'll go into the question while I get a respirator here to get some more oxygen.
Yeah, let's the prize. We've got Creative Kaiju. You just outlined what that prize is. We've got a 1-hour growth coaching session with Mike Fata. We've got a 12-pack of the newest midday square flavor, Crunchy Peanut. And then we have a 1-hour pitch consultation with Raj and the Boulder Food Group. So yeah, that's a lot to take in there. And obviously, like any prize, if someone wins it and wants to gift it to a brand or something like that, that's certainly acceptable. So look forward to seeing what's going to happen here. Alex, have you thought about a question? Or I kind of have one, but it's probably a softball. So
yeah, that's the issue. As I have 5 questions here on this pad that are pretty easy. But it's probably going to be a softball. But what is yours about? And then I'll tell you what mine is about.
Well, mine was with regards to how Green Spoon sales got started. So
it's kind of an open-ender.
Well, but it was a specific.
Oh, I see the number. Right.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right.
So what is the amount that dollar amount that Kari put in to start Green Spoon sales? That's a perfect one.
We're going to have to watch this. This is going to be like the Kentucky Derby photo finish here as we go through here. But,
I see Dima.
So I see Dima. Let me go to the tape here and make sure that's how it goes. But
my LinkedIn severely delayed, so I'm still watching when me and you are on in the beginning of the episode. It hasn't caught up.
It's definitely Dima. So Dima Mararu, speaking of Canada, Dima is the winner there. So Dima, you've got the whole shebang there. You know the drill to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. And if you want to gift that to a brand or brands, any of those portions, just let us know.
My backup question was, at what time in this podcast did Jake take off his shirt? But I decided not to ask that one.
That would definitely be a tale of tape. But what's interesting though is if you look here at all the 29s that are popping up in the chat, there's people that have been here the whole episode, been paying attention. So good stuff.
Cool.
All right. What do we got now, Alex? We want to give a chance for everybody to plug anything real quick before we sign off. Mike, you want to start?
Let's go in just in our kind of normal circle here. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll plug just because I keep plugging it because I want more people to use it. But Greg Fleischman and I put together a mentorship toolbox, fatafleischman.org. I'll drop the link, at least for LinkedIn folks here in the chat. And it has over 1,000 forms, tools, and templates that we use to grow our business, from presentation deck examples, budgeting spreadsheets, how to calculate gross margin properly in CPG, and so on and so on. It's a free resource. You can just go and get an account at fatafleischman.org, and hopefully more and more people are using that. There's thousands of entrepreneurs that do use it and using it on the regular basis. So I want more people to know about that.
Awesome.
All right, Seth, anything you'd like to mention? Parting
Sure.
word?
Yeah, we've just launched Just Iced Tea in cans at Sprouts
Ooh.
nationally, and it's a really great example of a retailer leaning into innovation. They were first to market, took it national, and it's an amazing partnership we have with our source our tea providers in Mozambique. It's one of the most impoverished provinces in the world, and so we're sourcing there through fair trade and also helping to build a health clinic in the tea village. So we're super excited about this new line. And I guess it's a nice way to show we're not trying to be a retread of Honest Tea. We're continuing to think about how do we reinvent this category.
Awesome. Yeah,
Right.
I went to my Sprouts in Torrance, right around here. I'm sure you've been here.
Yeah.
You weren't too far away last week, and had a nice lineup of the Just Iced Tea. One thing I need to make sure of is I promised a few people to drink their product during the show. So I finished yours.
Good.
But I'm also finishing 2 others, and I can't. It's hard to go to the bathroom when you're live. Raj, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say that as a venture fund, you're only as good as your portfolio businesses, and so eat a lot of squares any time of the day, not just midday, and check out Kari and Greenspoon because they're great folks, they're great people. And anyone that's interested, it's dealteam@bfgpartners.com. Send it over if you have ideas.
Love
Excellent.
that. The packaging on Midday Square is kind of the yellowish gold, matches your shirt. I like it. All right.
Always midday somewhere.
It's always midday somewhere. I love that one. Has that been like used?
I trademarked it already. I'm going to sell it to Jake and Les and Nick. Just get a little more valuable first.
Yeah, I got to build it. All right, Kari.
I'm just going to shout out the CPG women out there. Any woman that is trying to start up in CPG, I am happy to support, happy to spend time with you. Just email info@greenspoonsales.com and I'll schedule some time with you.
I got some I can refer your way for sure.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, and I'll end it with we're launching a new flavor, Crunchy Peanut. It's hitting the U.S. for those in the U.S. Next week at Targets and all over Canada. So you'll see it and our website hopefully next week if we don't get so backlogged. And yeah, thank you, Alex and Wade, for putting this together. It's a great group of people. I'm surprised. Did you know that they're like most of them are invested in? I think 75% of them are invested in the day squares here.
Why would we not?
We do now. We know now.
I guess we choose the greatest, the goats. No.
Yeah,
It shows
seriously.
how smart we are.
Get involved.
When's the IPO, Jake? When's the IPO? So the whole rest of the world.
Come. But Seth's the last one. Let's go, baby.
I've invested thousands in the bar itself. So.
Yes, you did. You do. Okay, I love you all.
All right, and this was the last
Excellent.
one I
Excellent.
found as well at Sprouts. It was pretty cool. So, all right, so we're going to adjourn for the day, and then just a reminder: next week, possible time change to our show. We are going to be moving to 12 p.m. instead of 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll let you know if it's next week or the next couple weeks. Another big thank you to our sponsors, our ongoing sponsors, Range Me, with their little QR code right there, and also the Driven, and then our weekly sponsor, which is Creative Kaiju. And just thank you, everyone, for making the time, being on here, making this a truly memorable and insightful show. All you guys and gals, you rock. Love you all. Thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
I love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on CPG Vibes.